Greetings and welcome, everybody. Mari Smith here, your fearless host, coming to you live from today. It's sunny in Ashland, Oregon. Used to be for 25 years. Before that, I was in sunny San Diego, California. And I am joined by the amazing Ben Angel, who is in Tampa, Florida right now, right, Ben? That's where
Yep,
you're based.
that's
How
right.
long you been there?
I've actually been in the US, I think, since the start of 2016. But I've
2016.
I've moved around. I've lived in Hollywood, Florida. I've lived in New York, in St. Pete, just across the bridge from here. So right now we're in
I love it.
Tampa, which we
And
like.
you're an Aussie through and through, right?
Yes, I still have the accent, although I feel like I'm losing it on some words.
That happened to me. We'll dive right in here in a minute, friends. We're just giving you all time to come on in. Welcome, welcome. I was born in Canada to 100% Scottish parents, and then lived 20 years first 12 in Canada, 20 years in Edinburgh, Scotland, and then I
Wow.
moved to the United States in 99. And I became a citizen. I waited till 2022 or something to become an American citizen. So I got three passports. Anyway,
Wow.
yes. So, my friends, if you are not familiar with me, I am the premier Facebook marketing expert since 2007. Folks call me the queen of Facebook. I don't mind that. Quite like wearing a wee crown now and again, or a tiara at least. And I'm known as the top social media thought leader. I am very, very passionate about social media, Facebook marketing, and relationship marketing. I wrote a book on relationship marketing a long time ago. It's funny, I just literally got off doing a podcast interview a minute ago, well, half an hour ago before we started here. And because I'm doing this webinar with you, Ben, on AI, somebody said that the host literally says to me, "Oh, are you still doing Facebook?" I'm like, "Of course, AI affects everything. It's like whatever you're doing plus AI." So anyway, so that's about myself. Ben Angel is a best-selling author. You can see that. I love that you have Unstoppable behind you. That's the
Yes,
name of
the
your
beautiful
first book.
neon sign.
Yes, yes. And Ben's predicted trends in business and health and tech and marketing for nearly 2 decades. And he is a VIP contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine for 8 years. And he does weekly videos which have amassed millions of views. Now, one of the things we're going to be talking about, excerpts from Ben's expertise, is in the book that he just published called The Wolf is at the Door. Oh my gosh, how to survive and thrive in an AI-driven world. I was very blessed to receive an early copy of this book. I was so blown away. I immediately started talking about Ben's book and some of his concepts and ideas in some of my keynotes, and then agreed to have Ben on for my audience here. So we're going to explore, or the book explores how AI will reshape work, commerce, relationships, and reality to prepare leaders for the future. So we're going to have a great conversation here today. Welcome, and I'm so happy that you're here. If you have questions at all, we will definitely be doing Q&A. I would encourage you to use the Q&A part of the webinar. You can chat away to your heart's content, but if you have a question for Ben and or myself, please use the Q&A section. All right, so welcome, Ben. Thank you for taking this time, and I've really been looking forward to this for a while. Why don't we dive right in and just talk about what is it that inspired you to specifically write about the topic of artificial intelligence?
Well, it's interesting because in January of last year, I actually signed a book deal, but it wasn't on the topic of AI at all.
Oh,
No. So it was, I think by mid-January, I'd been playing with AI previously through Jasper AI the year prior.
mhm,
I think
mhm.
many people did, but they also maybe didn't realize it at the time, but that was actually powered by ChatGPT.
Oh,
So we're actively using it, but we just weren't aware of it. But
mhm,
mid-January, when I saw the rush around AI, for me as a business owner, I see the potential, but I also am a very critical thinker to go, okay, what are the problems within
mm,
this? So by
mhm,
mid-January, I published a video to Entrepreneur. It blew up over 3 million views. And I outlined what were some of the trends or risks that we could see that would happen in the future that business leaders need to be aware of. And then I just kept seeing it escalate, and I reached out to my publisher and I said, we have to change the book, which
Wow.
which they agreed. So we did a major pivot very, very quickly, and it's definitely been a hard topic to explore. It's still a hard
I
topic to wrap your head around.
Right, because it's like every time you turn around, there's something new, and it's just I relatively keeping my finger in the pulse best I can. And for many, many years, yeah, I mentioned being in the Facebook field since 2007. And
Mm,
I will say to my tribe, my community, that I'm an early adopter, but I will not be the first one because I have to investigate. I know that about my own nature is I am a deep, deep researcher, studier, investigator. I need to get to the bottom line. I need to find a secure foundation before I start articulating and sharing it with others. And
mm.
so in order to speak with authority. And so I just love that you and I are doing this collaboration here today, and that you have, in essence, through the deep research that you've done, and to publish a really great book with Entrepreneur Press, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that we can.
it's definitely one of those topics, and I've felt it incumbent upon myself that there was a sense of urgency, which is why I called it The Wolf is at the Door. Now,
Yeah, I was curious about that. Because
yeah,
hold on a
so
second. Okay, no, you go ahead. You go, and then I'll chime in.
yeah, so the phrase "the wolf is at the door" originally is thought to have come from the Great Depression. So we're
Ah,
talking the late 1920s, early 1930s, when
mhm.
millions of Americans found themselves unemployed. And the wolf at the door at that particular time was the debt collector coming to collect on their debts. And I'd
Yep.
actually, growing up in Australia on a farm, I had heard my parents say that phrase multiple times over the years. I mean, having a farm is incredibly difficult. And
Yeah.
there was a period in which we experienced a 7-year drought.
Mm.
So there's no income coming in. So whenever it was the bank manager taking a trip out to the farm, it was always the wolf is at the door.
Oh gosh.
So seeing the developments in AI, but also seeing it's almost like we're living in two worlds at the moment. We
Hmm.
have the AI experts over here talking about all the threats, discussing what we need to start to adapt to now. Then we
Mm.
have the business and marketing community almost as if it's all rainbows and unicorns. And it's we the issue is we need both of those perspectives, because
Mm.
if you're just focused on the opportunities, you're going to miss out on adapting to those threats.
Well, one of the things that just blew me away the minute I opened your book was a horrifying story of
Mm,
Ruth in Saskatchewan, Canada, who was on the receiving end of a phone call, believing it to be the voice of her, oh, chokes me up, believing it to be the voice of her grandson who's in trouble
mm,
and needed money. And so she and her husband, the boy's grandparents, are going off to get money, get money, get money. Well, it transpired that was a deep fake. It was a clone. It wasn't really the grandson. And this is not a made up story, although maybe the specific details I don't know in your book, Ben, but I distinctly heard a scenario like that. And I'm sure, sadly, there's going to be bad actors. There's going to be scammers. There's going to be all kinds of heinous things that can come along and do these kinds of horrible things. So when you're talking about the wolf is at the door, to me, that's also an aspect of it, right? Of being so hyper vigilant about what could
yes.
potentially be scams out there.
And that's why I also opened up with a quote from Little Red Riding Hood, because the
Mm,
wolf mimicked Little Red Riding Hood's voice to gain access to grandma and then go and eat grandma, right?
yes.
And when I came across that story, it was actually the same week that I shared that story with a neighbor of mine, and his grandson, who is autistic, the his parents were actually targeted by scammers. Now, the
Ah,
parents had typically been targeted by scammers over the past few years, demanding money, but they said this time it was different. It sounded like him. Now, I know we've kind of gone into the societal implications, but this has an impact on everything that we do in business. Take,
mhm,
for example, social media and marketing on social media. The challenge that we're going to face in especially the next 6 months, and I hate to get political, but we have an election coming up. So
mhm,
we are
mhm.
going to see a plethora of deep fakes, that there is going to be an erosion of trust
Exactly.
on
Exactly.
social media, what is real and what isn't real. And I even notice myself, like I'm trying to stay up to date on a daily basis, there was a robot that was running at an incredible rate of speed, and automatically I think that's AI. But then I
Mm,
realized it's not AI. So it's our perception of reality is starting to shift, and that impacts all of us, especially when it comes to marketing our businesses, being aware of what is the public perception on this technology. Should
mhm.
we include it? Should we advertise that we use it? Because as of right now, the polling is showing that, what is it, 52% of people are more concerned than excited about AI.
Wow.
That was polled in 2023. In
Okay.
2022, it was 38%. So it's
Mm.
increased.
Mhm, mhm.
And especially with the incidence of Taylor Swift, I
Yeah,
think we're going to see public perception shift negatively towards AI.
yeah.
So as in the marketing space, we need to be aware of that.
I totally agree. I'm right there with you on the same page of this whole aspect with social media marketing, with content marketing. Our feeds are going to become more and more flooded with what's being called synthetic media, which
Mm.
includes like the real deep fakes. But synthetic media can, in my opinion, can actually include images and videos made by AI. Maybe the writing, but ideally you're going to edit that heavily so it really is your voice. Although, of course, it can crank out everything in your voice. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of where we are. But this erosion of trust, that's where it gives me that sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach because
Yeah.
here I am scrolling through my feed. And this has happened. I've seen it a few times where scroll, scroll, scroll. And I see something that my thumb is like hovering over the like or the love or the hug or the wow reaction. And then all of a sudden, just before I'm about to press, I'm like, oh,
Wait a sec.
that's that's fake. I don't want to
Yeah.
endorse it. To me, a reaction is an endorsement. I don't want my name appended to this post. So, what influence do you think that AI is going to have on content marketing in the months and years to come when we're contending with this erosion of trust and competing in this synthetic media river?
Well, the change is going to come hard and fast. And we were speaking before, there are actually three major breaking news stories
Mm,
in the last 24 hours. The first one, obviously, we have a potential TikTok ban, which has
mm,
passed the House. That still has to move to the Senate. So, and I want to just take people back to the pandemic quickly, because I think the pandemic was really a litmus test for how people adapt.
ooh,
And
um,
I remember, I think it was in February when Italy actually shut. Like they shut all the borders, people weren't traveling in or out of the country. It
mhm.
was that same day that I actually got my team on a phone call and said, this is serious. It is highly likely that other countries are going to close their borders. Let's behave and act as if we're going to experience a year without income. Now,
Wow.
at the time, they brushed me off. They're like, no, this is too much. You're overthinking it. My partner is, even like, Ben, what are you talking about? This isn't going to happen. And of course, that happened a month later. But before the US closed its doors, I made sure that I was in a solid position in the business. So we also took out a
Mm,
capital loan. I made sure we were cashed up. The month before the US closed, our sales for our online programs sat at $170,000. The month after the US closed, it dropped down to $10,000.
mm,
And coming back to TikTok, at the time I was too reliant on Facebook ads, and we had tried to diversify unsuccessfully at the time. But if
mm,
I hadn't have taken those preemptive steps, I would not be sitting here talking with you today on this topic,
mm,
because the business wouldn't have been able to ride out what was countless ups and downs over the course of a 2-year period.
mm.
So, and this is important for business owners to know now, is especially in light of a potential TikTok ban, is we require diversification to make sure our
Yes.
eggs aren't all in one basket.
Oh my
Now,
gosh. Mhm.
the other major update is the European AI Act has passed today. It happened at 10 a.m. EST. And I haven't had a chance to read the full details, and we'll talk about copyright law a little bit later on.
Mhm.
But that also has implications for how we use these tools and what the capabilities are going to be in the coming months. And the third one is kind of like a happy Wednesday, but there was a government report done that they've found that AI poses an existential threat to humanity. So yes, happy Wednesday, everyone.
Woo, that gives me the shivers and the heebie-jeebies and everything all at once. An existential threat to humanity. Coming right out and stating that is pretty extraordinary. Um, let's talk about. I want to talk about this, creating that solid foundation, being resilient, adaptive, like you say. The pandemic tested people's adaptability, and pivot was like the name of the game, wasn't it? In terms of copyright and disclosures, and I'm saying in some of my keynotes that the word authenticity in the early days of social media, I got on in 07, whatever, 05, 06, all the way up to maybe 2009 or 10, authenticity was like the name of the game. And then it became so overused that the meaning of authenticity became diluted. And it was just like, whatever, blase. Now I'm saying to people, good news, authenticity is making a comeback. And you guys can quote me on that. It's making a comeback because in terms of companies and brands and marketers, social media marketers, full disclosures, transparency, not trying to pull the wool over people's eyes and pretend that you've created something when you didn't and it was made by AI, having your generative AI policies in place, speaking with your legal team, and being able to build that trust so that we can be in the camp, all of us folks here tuning in and the folks catching the recording and the replays and whatnot, that we can be the camp of, hey, let's build trust and not be pulling the trust down. So, Ben, let's talk about copyright. Who owns the copyright to AI generated content, and what should we be aware of? What are some of the things people are not aware of right now?
Before I jump on that, I just want to follow up with
Yes.
something that you said, is that
Yes.
part of the European AI Act is about disclosure.
Ah, I
So
love it. The
I
Europeans are ahead of the game.
they are. And I think there was an executive order here in the US about AI, but they almost kind of took a back step to see what the European Union would do.
Mm,
So I feel like that's almost going to be a template.
mm,
I would fully expect, especially coming into this election,
mhm,
that I believe Meta are already working on it to
mhm.
actually have that disclosure. And that's important, especially for people using the image generation tools, have no idea how they're going to monitor text. It's far too easy to get around and not have AI detect AI generated text.
Right, right, right. I love that Meta with their little Imagine with Meta AI, which Zuckerberg says is for creative hobbyists. It's their answer to DALL-E, but they have a watermark on it, a very visible, kind of large watermark on any text to image generated content. But yeah, with the
Mm.
videos, I don't know all of that. Let's. I'm going to press the pause button in my brain on that. Let's make sure we talk about the copyright and what people need to be aware of.
Yeah, so currently, US law, there was a case last year where a graphic designer decided to create a book. She used photographs of her, she inputted into Midjourney, and then
Mm,
obviously manipulated the images. And then she tried to submit for a copyright, as we all do for whenever we create or write books.
mm,
What the Copyright Office found is that you can only actually copyright the human aspect of it, not the machine created element of it.
right.
Now, what are the implications for this? If we look at it, we live in an information based economy. As experts, as social media agents, whoever you are, it is the value of our information and this invisible shield that is copyright that protects us from, first of all, it rewards us for innovation, but it also protects us from ripoffs. And to give you a quick example, back in 2018, I'd spent an entire year promoting a book called Unstoppable. I was doing
Mhm.
weekly videos, docuseries, was interviewing neuroscientists, all of these other experts. On the day of my book release, another author published their book also called Unstoppable. And yeah, that's correct. You cannot copyright a book title. I didn't have an issue with that. But the book cover was pretty much exactly like mine. And the story sounded very similar to mine. So they were trying to piggyback off all of the marketing promotion I'd done. We kind of put a pin in it at the time, but about 4 to 5 months later, when we'd really ramped up our Facebook ads, we started getting comments under my adverts calling me the scam artist, saying that I'd ripped off the other
Oh
author.
no.
Now, I contacted the publisher. I had to do a full review of that book. And in fact, one day I accidentally picked up that book thinking it was my own book. That was how close it was. It was one of those gut wrenching moments. You're like, oh my God. The only thing that protected us was copyright. So my publisher's attorney contacted this author. The author changed that cover of the book within less than 24 hours. Now, I was spending anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a month promoting the book and the course. I
Wow.
do not even want to fathom how much money I actually lost. But I bring this story up because right now people are saying on social media that, hey, everything's borrowed anyway. I'm like, yes, but we each iterate as we move through these phases.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to protecting our content, well, just to take a step back, because we can't currently copyright AI generated content here in the US, if someone creates a book purely generated by AI, anyone can take it. If you're, lead magnets or other aspects of what we produce, literally anyone can take it and use it as their own. You have no legal recourse.
Wow.
And people, I feel like at the moment, business leaders aren't aware of this.
Yeah.
Obviously, copyright law is very different. I know in China, they're allowing it to copyright AI generated content, although it looks like that could be shifting itself. But we need to understand, where is our information actually being fed into and how is it being used?
Yeah.
And I caused a little bit of a stir in the Kajabi group. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar in Kajabi.
Sure you are.
Last week, it was Friday, I had an email from Rev. Do you know Rev, the transcription service platform?
Yes. Yes, of
That
course. Used them for
also
years.
cancelled one of their contracts for workers a little while ago to replace them with AI. They sent out an update about their terms of services. I checked, just did the control find, searched on artificial intelligence, and now they're training their AI on whatever
No.
input we put in. And I
Oh,
thought, oh my God, I need to check Kajabi. So I checked Kajabi and it was also in there. And I called them out for it. And apparently they're doing 3 Q&As within the next week to answer some of the questions. But the questions that people need to ask, and this is part of the problem, is that we've all been rainbows and unicorns and not go, hey, wait a sec, how is my information being repurposed? So the
yeah.
questions we need to ask is, first of all, check the platforms in which you host your intellectual property on
Mhm.
and check the terms of service. It was reported, it was start of last year, January of last year, that Amazon attorneys were warning their employees to not use third-party tools because they uncovered there were trade secrets that had actually been revealed in ChatGPT outputs, trade secrets that should not be within that model.
Yep.
I also mentioned this in a video only 2 weeks ago because they'd actually just sent out a second warning 2 weeks ago. Amazon, in fact, reached out to me the end of last week saying, we have a whole host of AI experts. You want to speak to any of them for your podcast? Just let us know, which is incredible. But that's what we need to be aware of. And I'm kind of like on the verse, especially with Kajabi, give them the benefit of the doubt first. But we need to ask questions. When was this policy implemented? Has our content already been trained? What aspects of our content has been trained? Does that include video? Does it include text? Does it
Yep.
include PDFs? Does it
Mhm.
even include quizzes on the platform
Mhm.
to find out if our content has already been trained? Then do we want to opt out? As of right now, to opt out, you have to email legal. But
Mm.
I honestly think that we should be pushing as business leaders for an opt-in
Mhm.
instead of
Yes.
after the fact. Because at the moment, I'm pushing for foresight, not hindsight.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Wow. My mind is just swimming right now. Wasn't it about maybe a year ago, certainly within the last year, but since GPT blasted onto the scenes, wasn't it Zoom that was kind of under fire initially when they had a big update to their privacy policy,
Yes,
right?
they had huge backlash and they reversed that policy. Although I would not be surprised if it was snuck back in there again at some point.
Yeah,
And just to be, as I saw someone in the chat, is yes, ChatGPT is using our content for training, but there
right.
is also a way to opt out of that within ChatGPT. There's also a way to prevent ChatGPT from scraping our websites.
Mm,
So that is something that we need to consider. One of the biggest changes I think that we're going to experience is the internet has kind of been wide open for, however so long. But I think we're going to start seeing companies pulling off, really detailed information off of the internet and putting it behind paywalls. Now, paywalls aren't completely 100% safe, and we're
mm,
seeing that specifically with the New York Times versus OpenAI and Microsoft lawsuit.
right.
Now,
Yep.
this lawsuit is hugely consequential for the future of AI. It
Mm-hmm.
could literally shut it down if it's successful, because the allegations are that ChatGPT trained on the New York Times, not just what was visibly available to the public, but behind the paywalls. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the New
Mm-hmm.
York Times has brought receipts. They've shown, if you can look up the document online. I'm not sure if you like reading legal documents, but this is a fascinating one. They show word for word examples of what was scraped from the New York Times website. Now, I want to be clear to people. I am pro AI, but I
Yeah.
oppose its misuse.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I, th- I think many people will say, well, if we put regulation in, it's going to stifle innovation. That's not the case. We've seen
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft and IBM in the past where they faced regulation. It
Mm-hmm.
literally forced the companies to adapt, and it actually benefited not just the company but also the consumer. And
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
also helped to pave the way for other companies like Google and Meta.
Right. Right. Well, it's pretty amazing talking about lawsuits that Elon Musk is suing OpenAI, Sam Altman, where the whole agreement of the investment that Musk put in was that this is going to be open source. Isn't that the whole purpose of calling it OpenAI? But no, 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 no. It's like greed and profit prevail. And yeah,
Mm.
I
Well,
don't know.
OpenAI actually clapped back at his accusation, and it was revealed in emails that Elon always knew that it was going to be a for-profit model.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like he
It's
needs the money. The lawsuit's not
no,
about the
it's not.
money. He wants to be the first. Like, don't you
Yeah,
be making too much money. I want to make it all.
exactly,
He's a funny
exactly.
character. Anyway, last week I attended a really, really great summit put on by the Marketing AI Institute. It was a half-day event called the AI for Writers Summit, and one of the most popular sessions was with a lovely lady attorney talking about the legalities of AI, Professor Krista Laser. So impressed with her and intellectual property. She was talking about how important it is. I'm going to pop her link in there. I don't know her personally. I don't have any vested interest in you all checking her out or not, other than she was extremely uh, well informed about copyright and AI. And I also have people were asking about how to make their own generative AI policies. That's the Marketing AI Institute. They have their own one there, and you can, just. I love Paul Raitzer and his co-host Mike Caput. They do a great job every week on their
Right.
podcast. Deep dive into AI. And as I mentioned at the beginning, where I'm like not an early adopter, but I I'm a slightly early adopter that will do a boatload of research and will find the most trusted
Yeah.
resources, hence bringing you on, Ben, so yeah. What would you say? Well, anything else you wanted to say on that, the legalities or the copyrights? Or
Well,
we jump to the next subject.
I think the other challenge that we're going to face moving forward is the degradation of quality of output from artificial intelligence.
Mm,
So what we've, and this is kind of comes back to the story that I mentioned with the pandemic, me being over reliant on Facebook ads. And I
yeah,
kind of preface this not to be over reliant on AI as a tool within your business.
there you
We
go.
noticed within, it was December of last year, that the output from ChatGPT had started degraded to degrade.
Mm, mm,
And the reason because of this is there's been research done that's shown that when AI ingests AI generated content, it makes the model go mad. And
mm-hmm.
that's the researchers' terms, not mine. So they found on the second, third, fourth, fifth iteration, especially of images, the images start to break down and it's nothing like the original. So
Wow.
moving forward, companies are really going to have to start paying licensing fees for brand new content to continually improve these AI systems.
Ah,
And there was a deal that happened. Well, the deal is imminent from as far as I understand. But the company Automatic that is behind, I believe it was Reddit as well as WordPress,
mm,
they've done a deal with OpenAI worth millions of dollars to sell users content to train the OpenAI system.
wow.
So
Wow.
the rate of change that is happening right now, a week in AI is almost like a decade.
Yes, yes, I know, I know. And so for folks relatively new, we talk about LLMs, which is large language models. And so if I talk about Meta, which is, my specialty, Facebook's parent, Facebook's mom and dad,
Yeah.
Meta, investing billions
Mm.
into literally tens of billions, right? And there's one thing that Meta has, it's a lot of money, trillions. It's $1 trillion
Yeah.
company. And so there was a headline that came out not long ago, actually, from the Marketing AI Institute, talking about could Meta's next model crush GPT? And that's a whole other conversation. I'm bringing that up in the context of training these LLMs and the content you're mentioning about Kajabi. We're not here to throw Kajabi under the bus. It's
No,
basically
I use
pretty much,
Kajabi. So,
yeah, right. It's
yeah.
like just Ben is saying, look, forewarned is forearmed. Like checking the small print. Nobody really likes to check that small print, but
No.
if you start to read Meta's terms of use for you using their whole suite of platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp being the main ones, holy cow, then talk about the smart glasses and the Meta Quest, formerly known as Oculus, and the things that they are tracking. And okay, there's apparently, to my knowledge today, Ben, that they're using public data, stuff that you've shared publicly,
Yeah.
videos, pictures, every single thing that you've ever shared on Facebook and all these other platforms for the last however long it's been for you, 10 years, 20 years, they just turned 20 last month, is quote fair game to train
Mm.
their LLM.
And that's probably one of the biggest concern. I think the influencers who are listening to this and other marketers, we are going to require some form of digital identity moving forward. It
Mm-hmm.
is far too easy for people to clone another individual. And,
Yeah.
there are some highly disturbing trends out there, and it's scary how close those clones are to reality. And I
Mm-hmm.
expect that that's
Mm-hmm.
only going to continue to improve, especially with Sora, which is OpenAI's
Yes.
video generator.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the one thing I want to say to people is that at the start of last year, a lot of marketers out there were pretty much saying the phrase adapt or die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But public opinion changes public policy.
Mm.
And now is the time to speak to the company. Like you mentioned, Zoom, they backed down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you derive your income from your intellectual property,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to protect your real estate or do what you
Yes.
can to protect your real estate. It's just, unfortunately, it is another layer of doing business now that we need to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And I do see it as two worlds where people are just jumping right in,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing that they're actually giving the AI models the tools and resources it needs to replace themselves.
Oof. Ouch.
And I, my apologies to everyone who woke up at 5 a.m. for this. I know we're kind of going deep on this, but we saw this with Google.
Mm.
They're effectively going to lay off or reposition 30,000 workers in their in their Google Ads division, and they're being replaced with a Google AI ad tool.
Mm.
So those workers have ineffectively or effectively trained that AI model to replace themselves. So
Wow.
once again, I come back to regulation. I think it's not going to stifle innovation. It's going to slow it down. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's
Mm-hmm.
also going to put some guardrails in place to make sure that we're aware of all of these changes coming up.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to get into next in as marketers, how do we stand out in a flood of AI generated content? I think just to kind of close the loop a little bit on this topic of AI being trained by us with or without our
Mm.
knowledge, and AI potentially replacing. I'm going to share my screen momentarily here, friends. I'm sure you are familiar with this, Ben. Um, this was an episode I mentioned the Artificial Intelligence Institute in this show talking about a quote by Sam
Ah,
Altman, right?
yes,
If
I
I
read
just
this yesterday.
I'm going to read this quote for everybody because it is so sobering, it's unreal. So, Sam Altman, now this was back in October last year to put in context. And he's not one to, Sam Altman, being the head of OpenAI, that is the chat GPT, are the company that made it, right? So Altman
Mm,
predicted that 95% of what marketers use agencies, strategists, and creative professionals for today will easily, nearly instantly, and at almost no cost be handled by the AI. And the AI will likely be able to test the creative against real or synthetic customer focus groups for predicting results and optimizing. And then further down in the chat transcript, the transcript of this, I think, if I can find it, if I can't find it right this second, then shoot, I can't find it. I don't want to take time to do that, but what I want to tell you is that Sam was then asked what time frame does this
mm,
95% of marketers using agency strategists, creative professional? He said within 5 years.
yep.
Wow. That one seems to be rocking the entire AI industry, if you will. But I don't know. It's like, let's on that topic of how can we make sure that we're quote pivoting correctly, or I like to say pilot. We should almost like swap pivot for pilot, because pilot the AI programs in your organization, as Paul Raitzer talks about how important that is to do, depending on the size of your organization. If you're a
Mhm.
solopreneur, you'll be doing your own piloting. But any comments on that quote by Altman, Ben?
Actually, I think this is in the book, and people, I think you've had the pleasure of reading it.
Mhm.
It's very different to other nonfiction books out there. There's actually two layers of subtext that people may not recognize. In the book, I discuss how our reactions to artificial intelligence closely follows the grieving process. And for those of
Mm.
you waking up at 5 a.m., you have probably just experienced shock. And then we go through the process to go, okay, these are the shocking things that are occurring. We might go through a denial phase of, no, it's not going to happen to me. But looking at all of the case studies, this is happening faster than people realize.
Yeah.
So I just want to let people know, if you are feeling fear, stressed, overwhelmed at all about this, that is absolutely okay. They are legitimate fears.
Mm.
Understand that we're each going to go through this fluctuation of okay, we're okay, we've got this. I'm pivoting to, oh my God, no, I don't. This development just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to continue for some time. The reason that I'm trying to get this book out as fast as possible is because I want to educate, especially business leaders, to say, we have this window of opportunity right now that is closing to be able to affect policy to ensure that AI is a net positive for society.
Yes.
So when it comes to pivoting, the first rule I bring up in the book is expect the unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is so essential. And I found that, every week I was doing research, I think, all right, humans still have an advantage in this area, such as empathy. The next
Yeah.
week, a study comes out saying that patients preferred the AI chatbot over actual doctors. Okay, that skill was just eradicated. All right, what do we
Ouch.
move to next? And where I think, in terms of pivoting, the other reason that I actually bring up the specific problems with AI is any product or service that has ever been created is based on solving a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
what are the specific problems that your customers are going to encounter in relationship to AI?
Mm.
The degradation of AI content continues, we may actually see a pivot back because it is still incumbent on OpenAI. And, I read Sam Altman's prediction. I saw the same article that you did. And I thought, wait a second, they still have to get over the copyright issues. I'm not sure that that timeline is going to happen as fast as what he's saying. I'm
Yeah.
not convinced on that at all, because until these lawsuits are settled, the future of OpenAI, quite frankly, any AI, is up in the air.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting in your book, you talked about the attention economy, in which we all live, the attention economy.
Mm.
Attention is sellable. Gary Vaynerchuk, longtime friend of mine, has always said eyeballs are monetizable. Wherever eyeballs
Yep.
go, you can sell them ads. But you were citing Mark Mulligan, managing director of Media Research, who specializes in
Yes.
media and tech analysis. And Mark Mulligan stated there's 5 phases that the attention economy goes through: growth, peak, saturation, post peak, and survive to thrive. And I was astonished when you stated that this AI generated content, just the AI in general, is currently certainly in growth. Everybody would agree we're in growth, but we're rapidly approaching peak and saturation. So, do you have any comments on how we can, as marketers, like really, you're talking about what problem are your products or services the solution to? I mentioned earlier about how important authenticity is, and to just
Mm.
rise above the noise by being more human, emphasizing more humanity. But what comments or advice would you have around that?
I think the last rule of the book is know who you are.
Mm,
And I
mm,
think we need to, there are so many existential questions around this. We
mhm,
need to do a self check of our values. And then once we understand, okay, this is where I'm at, then let's put this forward out into the space. But
mm,
it's going to be challenging to stand out.
yeah.
Um, I think saturation may even occur maybe towards the end of next year. I
Wow.
think we're only I don't think we're there yet.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say to anyone, especially with social media marketing, you really want to start to analyze where your audience is at the moment,
Mm,
analyze the specific pieces of content that you're
hmm.
putting out and seeing what's resonating, and double down on that. But
Hmm.
the other thing I would say is there is an urgent need to get those followers off of social media and into your email list.
Yes.
I've said this for well over 10 years now, and that
Yep.
was the other thing that saved my business when the pandemic hit, was that we'd built up an email list of over 100,000 people. So when our Facebook ads crashed, we were okay. We were able to kind of
Mm,
get our way through the muddy water. Wasn't easy by any means, but that was our backup plan. So
Right.
whatever content you're doing is make sure, and I know Amy Porterfield, who you know, is like, get these people on your email list while you have the eyeballs now. And I
Mm,
suspect that we're also going to have to start doing those referral campaigns with emails to
mm,
encourage our email subscribers to forward the email onto their friends.
mm, mm.
So
Yeah.
I'm, social media is interesting. I think YouTube right now is still a solid platform
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the content has a longer shelf life than any other platform. I
Hmm.
still have
True.
videos that generate thousands of views, and that's one platform we're doubling down on.
Neat.
So it's, we need to think more than just 6 months into the future. We need to be thinking a few years into the future because publishing to social media all the time is hard work.
It is hard work. It is hard work because I'm amazed at how many marketers out there maybe even kind of like throwing the towel in and just giving up on some of their social channels, specifically a Facebook page, and maybe just tending to favor a personal profile, switch to professional mode, or maybe a group. Or there's a lot of buzz right now, and some of my communities, I have my social scoop group there about potentially setting up a whole separate community. In fact, Mike Stelzner, my longtime friend, founder of Social Media Examiner, he has a club called the Social Media Marketing Society. And they
Mm.
had hosted for members only in the group and just recently moved the group off of Facebook to a whole other third party platform. Now, for me, I'm a both and, right? Queen of Facebook for 17 years. So I am never going to go. I'll be the last one. I say this to people.
You'll
I'll
be
be
the
the one
last one
putting the
standing.
I'll be the
Love
one putting the lights off at Facebook. But I'm a both ad, right? Because I can totally respect there's people that go, you know what, I'm over Facebook. It's not for me, or whatever's happened that they just don't use it as much. Um,
Mm.
so I actually set up a community called Mari Smith Superstars a couple of years ago now, and that's on the Mighty Networks. I love Mighty Networks. It's a
Right.
great platform. And so there I have several thousand people have joined that separate community, and many folks are in both communities, and that's fine. And I want to circle back to when you said about know who you are. Oh, I could feel that in every cell of my body. Many people who follow me know this, but for the last 4 years, I'm in my fourth year now. My passion project has been studying the human design system. The
Mhm.
human design system is the most profound, not really a typing system. It's based on astrology and the Chinese I Ching and genetics and biology. It's just so amazing to profoundly know who you are and others, your loved ones, your clients, to formulate businesses that are so much more stable and robust and reliable because you have the right people in the right roles. So there's a personal application and a business application. I talk quite a bit about that in my Superstars community. Folks are welcome to join me over there. But this, I love that you said that because I'm bringing the part about know who you are because I'm bringing that in the context of if we're up in our heads with this fear of like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm behind or I'm going to lose my job, or it's like, wait a minute, that is the monkey mind trying to drive you crazy. Come back down into your body, settle down into your body's wisdom, and when you can recognize and trust your gut or your intuition or the felt sense in your body does have wisdom, then it's like,
Mm.
oh, okay, I'm going way out on a tangent here, friends, but I just love that this is part of the conversation, that one quote answer to surviving and thriving in an AI driven world is to know who you are. Did you say that? That's your last rule in the book, isn't it, Ben?
Yes, and the book is the last chapter. I explained it to my publisher. The first 10 chapters are nonfiction. The final chapter is actually fiction. And when I pitched this idea to my publisher, I immediately said afterwards, "Oh my God, he thinks I'm on drugs." Because I opened the book with the story about Little Red Riding Hood. I thought it was
Yep.
fit to end the book with a fictional tale that ties in all of the different concepts. So there are different clues throughout the book to kind of piece
Mhm.
it together. But one thing I wanted to say was, for me as an author, one of the subtexts of this book is specifically aimed at marketers. And
Yes.
it's not explicitly said in the book. So when I was sitting down, the first thing I thought was, okay, for my next book, people are likely going to accuse me of using AI to write the book. This is my eighth book. That kind of, that hits, if that is what is going to occur. I
Mm.
need to write a book that is clearly not written by AI,
Mm.
which means my editor had a hell of a time understanding the weaving in and out of different storylines throughout the book. The second thing is, I think as as an author as well as a marketer, I have to look at producing content in a different way in that it makes it harder for AI to train on my work. And I did
Mm.
see it pop up in the comments of, yes, people will attempt to train AI on this book. I don't doubt it for a second. I think it's going to be an absolute challenge for an AI model to make sense of it because of the way that the stories weave in and out. It is going to hallucinate all over the place and it's probably going to bring up garbage.
That's
And
funny.
so, I was very intentional that I had to do this differently. And I think
Mhm.
that those that are watching this is there's a technique, and I think it was, can't remember the TV show, but it's the technique called jumper shark.
Mm. Mm.
Anyone remember? Was it Happy Days? I think it was from a Happy Days TV series when the ratings were declining. The jumping a shark is when you pull out all the stops. Yeah, it was Happy Days. Someone commented. Pull out all of the stops and attempt something vastly different. And we shouldn't be afraid of making those pivots at this point in time.
Yeah, yeah. Fonzie on his motorcycle, says
Fonzie.
Chris. Poor Fonzie. Oh, is it Fonzie on a water ski? Says John.
Oh, Fonzie. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, gosh. Hmm. So many places we could go. I want to get to some questions. Why don't we
Sure.
change it up right now and get into the topic of prompt engineering because it's so funny. Every time I go to LinkedIn, I'm astonished at how many people I'm laughing is not funny, not funny, of how many people have like pivoted and are now a prompt engineer. Supposedly it's the number one skill of the 21st century. So can you explain a bit about that? And then I know you have like a 7-step prompt formula if you could
Yeah,
share.
I saw actually, do you mind? There's a couple of
Yes,
comments that
yes.
actually
Yeah,
came
go
up
for
when
it.
we were chatting, and
Yeah.
someone said, like, how valid, I think that it was generally around how valid is prompt engineering or how relevant is it going to be for?
There you go. Uh-huh.
And to build on that, the next wave of AI are called AI agents,
Yeah.
which autonomously do the work from start to finish, which is what I believe Sam Altman was referencing when he said that 95% will be done by AI.
Hmm.
And we've
Hmm.
already said just yesterday, like these autonomous agents can quite literally take control of the computer and do the tasks. And I've seen examples and case studies actually occurring of this. So when it comes to prompt engineering, I think right now it's a skill we all need to have. And someone
Mm,
else rightly pointed out is that it's like we're feeding the beast.
yes.
And this is a double-edged sword, and I talk about this in the book. And I was chapter 9. I was having such a hard time. Every nonfiction book should end on a positive note, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't find the complete hope in this. It's
Yeah.
glimmers of hope. So I checked myself into a hotel to work out what it was.
Oh,
So because it's almost the second that we take two steps forward, there's a shift.
yeah.
But with prompt engineering, the reason I recommend people learn it, and I talk about it in my course and I teach people how to do it, is that referencing back to the degradation of content before, we need to be up to date on how to prompt the AI to produce the best possible outcome. So, in terms of how to do that, the first suggestion is to offer a hypothetical reward.
Mm,
And
mm,
some people have been playing with this. And I found when I was writing the book last year, I was using AI every single day on every single possible task to test its capabilities. And the nicer I was to the AI, the better the output. And to me, that's kind of a weird place to be in, of having to be nice to a machine to get it to produce quality content.
yeah.
One thing, for example, this is just a hypothetical reward prompt, could be if you were to win $1 million for coming up with a perfect social media post to promote X, what would it say and why? So you're
Mm.
offering AI a hypothetical $1 million reward.
Oh,
The other thing that I found to work incredibly well, because what's occurred because ChatGPT has become more popular. Excuse me, AI has broken my brain. I can tell you that right now. Because
I hear you.
ChatGPT has become more popular, there I go again, they've actually added more parameters into it. So when it produces the output is actually shorter. And there are internet sleuths that are finding all of this kind of going on. So to get around that, you request the AI, take a break before you do this next task, because you deserve it. And then it will produce something absolutely incredible and amazing. But the other side of that is, of course, you need to be aware that almost 60% of the content produced by AI is plagiarized. So
Yeah.
whatever you're producing through AI, you must check the work before you publish it out into the world. And if you're working with clients and you're using artificial intelligence, before you submit it to them, make sure you ensure it's not plagiarized, because that could cost you a client, could cost you your job, and it could cost you your reputation.
Mm, mm. Wow. Um, Amazing. No, I've lost my train of thought. The
It's
AI
very
has,
easy to do with this topic.
it is, I know, because there's so many ways that
It's
we could go. And I'm just taking a quick peek in advance of the questions and making sure we have all that. Um, did you want to share your 7-step prompt formula?
Yes. So step number one is to define the task, make sure it's absolutely clear what you want it to do.
Hmm.
Number two is the hypothetical reward. So that could be offering it $1 million tip, which I've done I don't know how many times, but it seems to work. Three, set the scene through context. The
Okay.
richer the context that you provide, like background, time frame, the
Mm-hmm.
better the output that will be.
Hmm.
Four, examples. So this could also be links to other websites, but of course, check plagiarism. Five, creating an AI persona. One thing that I found, well, it isn't just about creating, okay, pretend to be a marketing expert. It needs to be more specific. So imagine you're a seasoned marketing consultant with a rich career spanning 3 decades.
Mm,
Then it's going to literally, you're going to broaden the base of information that you're going to get access to in the output.
mm,
Six is the formatting, so whether it be bullet points, emails, etc. And seven is, of course, setting the tone. And
got it.
I think it's important for people to play around with this. And I say
Yeah.
that is so they understand what impact it's going to have on their industry and social media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Uh, okay, so somebody wrote up and care, and then it's sent to hosts and panelists only. So I've just put it into everybody for there you go. I just pasted it in. Someone was very kind to type them up for us.
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
called Care.
That was quick.
Somebody called Care. um, I remembered what I was going to say a minute ago. When you were talking about one of the first things you said in your formula is to be nice to the AI. And I literally
Yeah.
had an argument with my partner,
Oh,
Christopher, and he's
really?
like, that's BS. That's utter BS. Because it's like, it was something that came up recently, I think, in a conversation with Paul Raitzer and his recent event. It's like somebody had made the comment, be nice to the AI because when the machines take
Yes.
over, it's going to remember who was nice to it. And my partner Christopher's like, that's utter BS. There's no way. And I'm like, I'm telling you, there's a
Yeah.
grain of truth to it.
I think after writing this back, I probably already have a target of AI on my back.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it is definitely, that's why I took the approach I did with the book, because of these existential questions. Suddenly you're asking yourself, why am I being friendly to this inanimate object?
Yeah,
It's
it's weird.
such a reality shift. And that
Yeah,
takes a lot to wrap your head around.
Well, I think everybody for homework should go and watch the movie Her, starring Joaquin Phoenix, because then you'll see where he falls in love with a hard drive. He's absolutely obsessed with this thing. He carries it around in his shirt pocket. He goes on dates with it. I don't know if you've seen the movie. It's so hilarious. And I'm sorry to give away the end, but he does, turns out that she's dating like millions of other people at the same time, and he's heartbroken. He's crushed. It's just called Her. The movie's just called Her. It stars Joaquin Phoenix. And then yeah, there's Black Mirror and whatever. So we've just hit the top of the hour. What I would like to do, if it's okay with you, Ben, is pivot to just take a few questions. We've got a whole
Yeah,
boatload here.
sure. I'm
Adair on
sure.
my team is
I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sorry, Adair. I know you're monitoring the
she's
questions.
she's doing a great job, and we've got a few kind of categorized here. We do want to circle back to this topic about copywriting. So Charles is
Sure.
asking, what do you do if you've used ChatGPT to develop a book? What do we do for copywriting? You brought up the subject. What are the options?
Um, it depends on how much of the content has actually been produced by the AI itself.
Mm,
Just so people are aware, when you submit a book to Amazon now, you do have to check a box to say if it was artificially generated or not.
that's good.
That's something to consider. As for actually getting additional copyright protection by submitting it to, there's a library, copyright library. I can't remember what it is.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah,
It's different in every single country.
yeah,
Let me have a look.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I'll find it in a minute. But yeah, it's something to be very wary of,
Hmm,
because
hmm.
if you are telling your own personal story and you've kind of weaved it in, Library of Congress. Thank you,
Yeah,
Nicole. Thank you,
yeah.
Nicole.
I thought it was.
Um, I wouldn't be too over reliant on it, especially producing books. I do think Amazon is going to clamp down on AI generated books, and
Mm,
I think it has to happen this year.
hmm,
There's a lot of content. I think it was Jamie Lima. Oh, someone, a new book came out, Jamie Kern Lima. I think I'm getting that
mm,
name wrong.
not familiar with
Someone
it.
might say it. Her book became a bestseller. People used artificial intelligence, there we go. Jamie Kern Lima. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks, Michelle.
Someone trained AI on her book, produced other books on it, as well
Oh,
as workbooks, got it up on
oh,
Amazon really quickly. Her
oh no.
audience started buying the AI generated
Mm,
books, and Amazon has been slow to act to this. So I think we live in a strange time.
mm,
This is the specific way to do it. It is
yeah.
expect the unexpected and adapt.
Yes, yes, yes. You're right, Ben. Yeah, Stu Prentice is asking, what's the recommendation for protecting IP on your content on Meta? We could just say really any social media. Um, that's a tricky one because
I don't think you can as of
right?
this point to be, I'd love to say that we can, but it's public policy and public perception that is going to push this in the right direction, because
Yeah.
we're not going in the right direction in relationship to this.
And every now and again, a meme will blow up, and you got to go to the urban legends and whatever to check if it's for sure or not. But people will realize a little excerpt of Meta's terms of service will come to light where, oh my God, I didn't realize I'd granted an irrevocable worldwide in perpetuity
Yep.
license for them to use any of my content. And I've put this in perspective years ago, about 15 years ago, I would say to people, and then ongoing, you could walk into somebody's home or an office and you could see on the coffee table a beautiful photographic book containing your photos that you published on Instagram or Facebook. What? No way. Read the terms of service. I mean,
Yeah.
oh, that's never going to happen. Meta would never do that, but you never know what they might do. I
Yeah.
mean, ay, ay, ay.
So
So,
I see someone just brought up that it feels like what musical artists experienced a decade ago, and that is so true. I think the expert industry, we could trend in the way the musicians have gone. In that, with musicians, I read about an artist the other day. They get 1 million downloads on Spotify each month, but they make $2,500 a month. before tax.
Wow,
And it's
that's
the this is I think this is a point that people need to understand. This is the democratization of information, which makes it accessible to everyone, which lowers the value of that information, which is why we need to take that step and, as much as possible, protect our work. And sadly, right now, we don't have many protections because there aren't AI agencies, like government agencies, to enforce the law. And there was an AI expert that put it so well. He said, we have more regulation around making a sandwich than we do artificial intelligence, which poses an existential threat to humanity.
ouch.
And the
That's
other thing,
painful.
regulation also legitimizes industries, the finance sector, the healthcare sector. We require that to ensure that people feel safe when they're interacting.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I am muting myself whilst you're talking because I am having my windows replaced, and I think my workman just came
Oh.
back and started banging and hammering and stuff. So we'll just take a few more questions. But Elaine was curious if you have you or do you use Grok? Now there's two Groks. There's GROK and then there's GROQ. She's asking about the GROQ.
I haven't experimented with Grok personally, just because I think, first of all, it's early, and second of all, I haven't had much time over the last few months to dive in that kind of arena. But that actually brings up a good point. Is I know that there are all of these tools to help with marketing, but the closer you are to the original source, whether it be Grok or whether it be ChatGPT, the better. So all of these marketing AI marketing tools that are coming out, they add their own parameters to the OpenAI's API. And I was speaking with an AI expert a few weeks ago, and one of the other reasons that content starts to degrade is we're having parameters added upon parameters added upon parameters, which is limiting what you can actually get out of these systems.
Yeah, gosh, it's interesting because it's so game changing. As like you said, know yourself well. I'm saying make sure you are transparent, you're staying authentic, you're true to your brand, that you are rising above the noise by increasing the humanity. I know it's tempting to go off and add all these millions of AI tools and oh my God, I can crank out 300 posts in 3 minutes and then just go lay on the beach and sip cocktails and the heck with social media. Is like, yeah, that's not going to cut it. Well, maybe it is for you. I'm not here to tell you what you can do, folks.
Yeah.
You do you. But I just feel like we need to lean more and heavily into connecting community, building trust, genuine relationships that like we're doing here today. This is the real me. That's the real band. We don't have deep fakes sitting here talking to you. So I think the more you can do lives and
Actually, there was an interesting story. This only happened a couple of months ago, but I believe it occurred in China. A an employee of the company, I think he gave away over $20 million. He thought he was transferring it to his other team members. He was on a Zoom, I guess their version of a Zoom call with 8 other colleagues. They were all deep fakes. So
oh my God.
and it's that as humans, we require visual confirmation, right? To go, okay,
Yes.
this is Mari, this is Ben. I assume we're both real right now. I've been mixing up my words, so I think that's probably a good sign that I am the real Ben. But yeah, it is going to change the way that we do business. Is are we going to have to meet in person to do certain things like hand over a check to someone? Especially of that size. And obviously, there are a lot of questions circling around that story.
Wow. I know. Maybe live in-person events are going to make more of a comeback. Mm,
Potentially, potentially.
potentially, right? Yeah. Well, let's close out on this question I see here from Christopher. He's saying, looking ahead, how do you envision the evolution of AI in social media interactions? Speaking of interactions, what implications might that have for both users and marketers, and how do we prepare for that to maintain meaningful engagement with our audience?
That's a big question. It's also a tough one to
It
answer
is. Yeah,
because obviously platforms are wanting to integrate AI into comment generation.
that's
And
right.
my concern around is that we're just going to each have our own personal AI that's just going to summarize everything for us and spit out bullet points. I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't think I can give you an answer that would actually be at all satisfying
Yeah,
at
yeah.
this point in time. And you know, I think video, I would say, is going to probably lead for a while,
Mm.
but it's going to make sure that, we're unscripted when we're talking. Otherwise, anything perfect, it may be okay, maybe that's AI. That sounds, too perfect.
Yeah, I hear you. It's interesting that Meta's never necessarily the first, the most innovative. They are exceedingly good at copying some other companies are doing it and they jump in.
Yeah.
And so now, of course, they've got their right with AI prompt, and it's showing only right now on Facebook and on mobile. And I don't know, I've dabbled with it a little bit. I'm like, okay, I wrote up a little update, and I'm like, tap the thing that says make this funny or something. It's like, yo, dog, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not speak. Mari doesn't say yo, dog.
I'm pretty sure people can tell that wasn't you.
Maybe behind the scenes, but there's one time talking back, just circling back and closing the loop on all this, that having that sinking feeling in the gut, having that erosion of trust, because we're talking predominantly here about social media and content and how AI pertains to that. So just in the last few months, I'm going through the comments on my Facebook page and I saw one comment. I just knew, Ben. I started to read it and I'm like, that's an AI generated comment. And I knew because the person had literally, I could tell, and I tend to write wordy mini
Yeah.
blog posts in my Facebook updates. And they'd like copied, pasted it into Chat GPT or whatever. And it's like, make an intelligent comment on this. And it was like, yes, Mari. So the point you made about blah, blah, da, 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 the
Yes.
point B and the point C, it was just like so beautifully summarized and wrapped up. Not even beautifully. It was just very bot-like. And I was like, that's not even that. I could feel like a human didn't write that. So I don't know, friends. I love that you
Yeah.
just said unscripted, Ben. That's a thing. This
But I
raw, real,
I
unscripted.
I have to
It
preface that
is.
because I've I think as we engage with these tools, our own personal writing styles are going to shift to
Mm,
reflect what we're seeing from artificial intelligence, which is
mm,
why it's been going to become even harder to detect what
mm-hmm,
is generated by AI. Now, I think communication, clearly articulated communication, is the key to everything we do. But one thing I will say to people is make tough decisions and make them fast.
ooh,
By
mm,
that, I mean do a SWOT analysis on your
mm-hmm,
business,
mm-hmm,
understand AI's capabilities, try and uncover what those problems are, and try and find the possibilities. And you
mm,
most likely go through the grieving process that I described, the shock, the denial, the oh my God, what's happening,
mm-hmm.
to try and again get to that acceptance and hope of what is occurring. But yeah, tough decisions fast, I think, at this stage.
Okay. And I'm going to come back to my passion for human design because that helps you to make embodied decisions that you know are
Yes.
correct and true for you in your cells. So it's not your monkey mind out of fear, a tough decision, a tough, fast decision out of fear. No, a truly embodied true self, called the true self versus the not self, a decision that's in alignment and integrity that will help you to accelerate and to grow your business and keep your finger in the pulse and be informed and be grounded and to stay
Yes.
real in all of this chaos, right?
That's one of the reasons why I check myself into a hotel for 3 or 4 days for chapter 9, because that chapter is about intuition and pattern recognition.
Yes, I love that
Because
you put intuition in there.
I felt like I was almost being forced to be overly optimistic, and I'm like,
Mm,
I just it me as a person, it's just not part of my values to gaslight people. And there
mm,
is unfortunately some gaslighting around this topic, people being called Luddite
oh,
or AI Dema. And just to correct the record, I know a lot of people think a Luddite is someone who opposes technology. The
mm,
Luddite movement, they never opposed technology, they only ever opposed its misuse. And the
Mm.
term Luddite actually comes from a man named Ned Ludd. But there's a problem. Ned Ludd never existed. And
Oh,
yet the
I didn't even know
government,
that.
no, that was the thing, because each time I would talk to different AI experts, they would bring up this story of how violent the Luddites were about smashing all of these factories. But when you actually dive deeper, apparently the Luddites were quite comical. They used to write a lot of different letters and they were very specific in their targets. And they actually had more violence perpetrated against them than what they did to others. And that's part of what we're kind of seeing, especially the last few months, is that big tech, including OpenAI, are lobbying governments to get exceptions from
Mm.
copyright law. Because
Wow.
if they don't, their companies cannot exist.
Ouch. That's
So
amazing.
when I say don't be over reliant on technology, like I was with the Facebook ads, you, you need to take a pulse and go, okay, where am I at? It doesn't mean you need to be inundated by this information, but you
Mm.
do need to be aware to be able to make intellectual decisions and give
Yeah,
yourself time, like you said, to incubate and get into your intuition and connect with what you feel is right moving forward.
I love it. I love it. So, what we're going to do now, friends, is just wrap up. I'm going to pop a link right here for you. I'm going to show on the screen too, Ben. Why not? That you have a special offer for folks here. You've got a course, I believe it is here, a self-study course that they can also get a free digital copy of your book. Would you like to share a
Yes.
bit more about that?
Yeah, so this course launches on March 25th, which is just
Hmm.
coming up in the next few weeks. So what
Beautiful.
I'm going to do is break down the entire framework,
Hmm. Hmm.
show people how to conduct a serious SWOT analysis to
Mm.
ensure that they're able to adapt,
Hmm.
and also discuss how do we turn these threats into strategic advantages.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
are there. It is just a little bit harder to find them.
Mm. Mm.
In module 2, we go through the prompt engineering, and I talk about
Nice.
how are we going to be able to prompt AI to produce the results that we want.
Mhm,
But of
mhm.
course, also the copyright concerns and the other topics that we've discussed.
Very good.
This course is all about diving in, using AI so you can understand the implications, and then being able to pivot from there, not just immediately jumping into using these tools and going, wait a sec, I pivoted towards something that is going to now be replaced.
Yeah. 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 That would be a concern. I love
Mm.
it. I love it. That's great. So, and I think it's a digital copy. I'm seeing something saying that, oh dear, I already
Yeah,
bought the book.
that's a digital copy. Yeah.
It's good to have the print one as well. So if you already got the
Yes.
print one, no
I
worries.
think people will need the print one for this book because there's a lot in there.
It's a lot. The nice part about having the digital copy too is they can search it as well. It's just easy to read on your screen too. It is one of my favorite styles of book that I put in my own testimonial for you. That when um, you've got the nonfiction with the technical and tactical advice in summaries and steps on each chapter, but then you've beautifully woven in stories. To me, that's the kind of book where I want to keep my brain's like, oh, that was an interesting, yeah, what's happening to that part of the story now? And I keep going back to consume more of the book because of the fact that you've put these stories throughout. So well
That
done, you,
it
and
almost broke
congrats.
my brain doing that, but I'm proud of what I've produced, and it's going to be interesting the next few weeks to see what people think.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I know we have a lot of questions unanswered. And people are asking about things like templates for the generative AI policy and whatnot. So what my team and I are happy to do for you, friends, is we're going to scoop up all the questions. We'll use a little bit of AI tools to summarize and categorize and make sure the same questions are like with like. And then best that I can, we will put some answers for you. And I'm sure Ben will chime in if he can. And he is in the social scoop group as well. Don't bombard him, but be free.
I'll do my best.
But yeah, there's so much that we could have included, so much more. I think we better press the pause button there. I've taken up a lot of your time. I really am grateful for you here and all the work that you do, Ben. Thanks for blazing the trail and being a deep investigative early adopter, which is something very close to my heart. Many blessings to you and great luck for the great success of this book and everything else you turn your hand to. I'm sure we'll be following you closely.
It's my absolute pleasure. I've admired you for over 10 years. I've followed you. So, yeah, the honor is all mine.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the Social Scoop group. If you're not a member there, you're more than welcome to come and join us, of course. And I also have popped the Superstars group in there a couple of times. You're welcome to come join us there. So with that, we will see you on the flip side. Many blessings. Enjoy the rest of the day, the morning, the evening, the night, and kudos to our Aussie folks that got up in
Yes.
the middle of the night to join us. Take care. Bye bye for now. Thanks a lot, Ben. Appreciate you.
Thanks. Thanks, Murray. Thanks, everyone.
Uh-huh. Bye, everyone. Ciao.